we're going to show you how to work make one away and make one toward increases. These are increases that I use in the pattern for my test slipper because they use working yarn to make a new stitch, and they don't use strands of yarn or stitches from previous rows or rounds of knitting, and therefore they don't tighten any of the stitches in the knitting that's already taken place, which is why I like them for stranded knitting. So Mary's going to work across this row and she's going to show us the pattern for the test slippers on this round, and I'm going to talk you through it so that you can see how to work these increases. The first thing that she's going to do is when she gets to the last 2 stitches before the stripe, she's going to decrease there using an SSK decreases with those two decrease with those 2 stitches. So Mary, can you work the SSK decrease there, please? And then she's going to work across that stripe in the stranded pattern. She's very good at stranded knitting, isn't she? Look at that, fantastic. Right, can you do a make one away increase, Mary? What I'd like you to do is take your index finger that's underneath that working yarn in your right hand, take it out from underneath that yarn, and then instead take your index finger down behind the yarn from above and lift the yarn up onto your index finger to form a loop of yarn on that finger. And then you take the working needle up into that loop of yarn and transfer the loop to the working needle in that way. And that's our first increase. That's a make one away increase. Before you move on, Mary, let's just talk about that increase. It's called a make one away increase because if you look at the loop of yarn, the way the yarn travels through that loop on the needle, it comes out of that loop of yarn pointing towards the back of the knitting, pointing away from the needle, away from the knitter. And so it's a make one away increase. Thank you very much, Mary. And now she's reached the stitch which was a make one away increase in the previous round. And make one away increases in circular knitting are just knitted in the normal manner in the subsequent round. So Mary, can you just knit that through the front loop, please, in the normal manner? Thank you very much. And then knit across the middle stitches in pattern as set and right up to the last stitch, which is the increase from the previous round. Now this last stitch was a make one toward increase in the previous round. And whereas make one away increases in circular knitting can be knitted in the normal manner, make one toward increases twist the opposite way. And if she were to knit that stitch in the normal manner, in fact, I think, would it untwist it or would it add an extra twist to it, Mary? I know it does something to the twist.
It adds an extra twist.
It would add an extra twist to it, and we don't want to do that. So instead, we're going to knit this stitch through the back loop. So can you do that, please, Mary? So make one toward increases in circular knitting. When you knit them in the subsequent round, knit them through the back loop so as not to add an extra twist to the stitch. And then we're going to make a make one toward increase. And whereas Mary took her finger out from under the yarn previously and took her finger down behind the yarn, instead this time, Mary, what I'd like you to do is just twist your hand toward yourself with the yarn over your finger the way that it is already. And then can you see that that's made a twisted loop of yarn on her finger again, but this way it's twisted the opposite way. And can you take the working needle up into that loop of yarn from below to transfer it to the working needle? Thank you very much. And then that's a make one toward increase. Now, it's very difficult to see. If she were to let go of that yarn with her working hand, and you could see the way that it emerges from the stitch on the needle, the yarn on the needle, if it were underneath the needle, would be coming out of the stitch toward Mary. It's called a make one toward increase. Can you see there? It's pointing toward the knitter from the needle. That's a make one toward increase. Thank you very much, Mary. And now she's going to knit across the final few stitches of the stripe pattern in the slipper. So these stitches in stripe pattern, And then the final part of this work that we're doing to make these stripes travel is she's going to do a knit two together decrease here. So that's how we're making these stripes travel in the test slipper. We're using decreases and make one increases to make the colour work travel. Thank you very much, everyone.